So I've been out in the middle of the ocean for 4 days. I have no idea where I am, no minimap, no GPS. The wind is shifting, a storm is probably rolling in, and I'm one wrong maneuver away from losing my entire cargo and probably sinking the ship. And you know what the crazy part is? This is probably one of the most relaxing and immersive gaming experience I've ever had. This is Sailwind. Hello citizens, captains and landlubbers, welcome! Today I'm taking you into what I can confidently call one of the best sailing games ever made. We're going to see how it works, what you actually do, pros, cons, and why this little early access title is worth of your time. As always, I'm not affiliated with the developer in any way, I just enjoy showing you great games. So, what do you actually do in Sailwind? Let's start with the 3 starting regions. The first one is Al-Hank. I'd say it's inspired by the southern Mediterranean and Middle East. Nice weather, easy sailing, and a small boat that's an absolute joy to handle. Then we have Emerald Archipelago, the intermediate region, I'd say. Far Eastern vibes, breathtaking sceneries, and storms that will make your hair stand on end. And finally, the hard region, Estrine. I'd say northern Mediterranean inspiration, countries like northern Italy, southern France, or even Spain, and a little caravel-like boat waiting for us. Obviously, we're picking the hard one, mostly because why not suffer right from the beginning? Oh, and as you can see, no Caribbean, no pirates. After years of pirate Caribbean-themed sailing games, that already feels like a breath of fresh air. Let's briefly talk about the graphics. Sailwind isn't trying to be photorealistic, I can say this only because of my trained eye, so trust me. Its art style sometimes reminds me of a simplified version of Sea of Thieves, but that's pretty much where the similarities end. So, shall we take a look at our boat? We've got one mast, 2 sails, a square sail and a triangular sail, but I know now that it's called Latin sail. Yes, I've learned way too many sailing terms just by playing this game. This setup lets us sail efficiently under a huge variety of wind conditions, but it also makes maneuvering a little more challenging. You'll soon find out how much of a bob I can be in this game too. We've got the mooring lines, the control for raising, lowering and trimming the sails, the helm, our nice hammock, and then we've got a few essential items. Let's start with the tutorial. Yes, you got it right, the tutorial is an actual object. No press W to move forward, no hold shift to sprint. Instead, in just a few pages, it explains the basics of sailing and the game itself. And we'll find more manuals in other towns as we explore. Then we have a nice slice of cheese, a mug, a lantern, and of course the compass. It always points north, whether you're carrying it in your inventory, in your hand, or throwing it onto the floor like a dirty sock. And that brings me to one of this game's absolute strongest features. Let's grab the last item on the table, the map. Look at that, a beautiful world full of islands. Now tell me, where are we? No idea, right? Neither do I. The game knows, it just refuses to tell us. How rude. We'll solve that tiny little problem later. For now, let's hang the map on the wall so it's always within reach and head back into town for a quick walk around of the marketplace. You can buy all kinds of food, equipment and useful items, but not right now though. At the beginning, we're actually broke. So, how do you actually make money in Sailwind? Hauling crates! Let's go talk to this grumpy Templar looking guy, who doesn't even bother telling us his name, so from now on we'll call him Grumpy MacGrumble. On his table we find the trading book. Unfortunately we can't use it yet because Mr. Frowny here doesn't trust us, so let's open the mission scroll, and first of all we finally learn the name of the island we're standing on, Siren Song. The missions are simple: transport a certain numbers of crates, big or small, light or heavy, depending on what's inside, from your current island to another one. For your first jobs, it's best to keep the routes short. You'll gain experience in the game and start making money much faster. We can only accept 2 contracts from our dear Lord Longface. but that'll do for now. Let's head outside, and there they are, our lovely crates. They're huge, heavy, hard to move. Nope! Apparently we're incredibly strong and we can move giant crates full of tools around as if they weighed absolutely nothing. At first, cargo management looked pretty straightforward, but then I found out it isn't. If I load all the heavy crates at the back or all on one side, the boat starts sitting awkwardly in the water. At least it squats lower at the stern. My weight also affects the ship trim. I'm invisible, but apparently my bones are very heavy. And that directly affects how well the boat sails. You'll be slower, you'll take more water in rough seas, and if you really mess things up, you might even sink. So it's better to balance the cargo properly and get ready to set sail. So the wind. Of course, it's blowing straight against us, because why wouldn't it? Getting out of here won't be easy at all. Let's set the sails, let's get it ready, angle it properly. Now we climb down, cast off the mooring lines, give the boat a little push and cross our fingers. Oh my god. I can't believe it. The boat is moving in the right direction. Guys, I'm getting emotional here. I've tried this maneuver 1,000 times, and every single time I ended up with my stern smashed against the rocks. I was already mentally preparing for one of those tactical cuts in the editing, and instead, look at your bob. Feel free to leave all the compliments you want in the comments. My ego will sincerely appreciate them. And now, we are finally on our way to our very first destination, which means we can finally talk about what Sailwind is really all about. Sailing. The experience is honestly one of the most immersive and realistic I've ever found in a video game. The sound design is fantastic, the creaking wood, the waves hitting the hull, the sails flapping when they lose the wing. You genuinely feel like you're standing on a piece of wood being pushed across the ocean by nothing but the wind. Like I mentioned before, the game never tells you where you are, so you have to figure that out yourself. At first it's fairly simple, combination of compass, map and your own eyes, but later on, once you start sailing bigger ships, taking longer voyages and leaving land completely behind, you'll have to rely on the stars, the sun, your chronometer and several other navigation tools, and honestly, that's one of my favorite parts of the entire game. Sailwind is slow, very slow. To make time pass a little faster you can sleep, which makes perfect sense, except your boat doesn't stop sailing while you're asleep. So while you're happily swinging back and forth in your hammock, the ocean keeps oceaning and the wind keeps winding. You go to bed after a beautiful, peaceful sunset, the sea is calm, everything is under control, you lie down, close your eyes. A few hours later you wake up, pitch black night, and the boat is happily sailing backwards because the wind has completely shifted. You've drifted who knows how many miles in some random direction, and suddenly you have absolutely no idea where you are anymore. That's crazy. As you progress through the game, you build reputation that unlocks more delivery contracts and eventually lets you trade goods directly between the islands yourself, which naturally means more money, and eventually you'll be able to buy much larger ship like this one. Now that's a proper ship, although it does look like a little empty. Luckily, money solves that problem too. You can buy so many different objects to make it more like this. Okay, maybe I've overdone this a little. And then there are the truly essential items, like an incredibly exciting broom to clean the deck, or an incredibly exciting fishing rod to fish fishes, or an incredibly exciting oven so you can cook the fish you caught with your exciting fishing rod, or an incredibly exciting pipe that you can smoke after eating the fish you cooked on the oven after catching it with your fishing rod. Basically, it's the complete sailor experience. And finally, once you've earned a respectable amount of money, you can move on to the true endgame. Pimp your ship. At the shipyards in the capital cities, you can completely redesign your rig, make your ship faster, slimmer, more efficient, or you can create such an absurd forest of sails, jibs and staysails that every maneuver becomes about as complicated as a university astrophysics exam. and with masterpieces or nightmares like this, you'll be ready to cross entire oceans on voyages lasting days. And then there's what I think is the single most satisfying feeling in the entire game. After days of open seas, of estimating your position, of fighting storms, of getting slightly drunk on rum, you grab your spyglass, climb up to the crow's nest, and finally, you see it. An island. Your destination. The end of the journey. You can almost taste victory. Then you check the wind and it's blowing straight against you. So from that point all the way to the harbor, you'll have to fight for every single inch. So is Sailwind actually worth playing? In my opinion, absolutely yes. And here's why. First of all, I genuinely think that it's the best sailing simulator currently available. Or at very least, it's right up there. If you know of anything better, please tell me in the comments. Seriously, I'd love to try it and compare them. The atmosphere is incredible, even without graphics. Sailwind absolutely nails the feeling of being at sea. Then there's what for me is the game's biggest strength, real navigation. No GPS, no floating waypoint, getting lost, figuring out where you are, finding your destination. This is the game and I love it. Progression also feels very natural. The game constantly presents you with new challenges, but only when you're ready for them. Of course, you're completely free to take your tiny boat into the open ocean on day one. Nobody's stopping you, but good luck, you're probably going to need it. The survival mechanics are also very well balanced. Everything feels connected without becoming overwhelming. Yes, there's a little frustration now and then, but there's also a huge amount of satisfaction. Now, it's not the perfect game, of course, and it's definitely not for everyone. The first thing to know is that it's slow, very slow. And if this kind of pacing isn't your thing, that's perfectly fine. Sailwind probably isn't the game for you. It's also not so easy. You don't need to be a real sailor to enjoy it, of course, but you can't completely ignore the basics of sailing either. If you're expecting something like Black Flag or Windrose, where you basically press forward and the ship magically goes where you want, well, prepare for a big surprise. The early game can also feel a little repetitive. Making enough money before you can really start enjoying the bigger ships and longer voyages takes some time. Again, whether that's a problem or not really depends on what you're looking for. And yes, it's an early access game, and it's been for a while now. There are bugs, not a huge number, nothing game-breaking most of the time, but they're definitely there. There's no point pretending otherwise. The good news here is that they're usually fixed incredibly quickly by the developer. Yes, developer, singular. This entire game is made by one lone superhero. And finally, there's one last downside. The wind is always against you. Now, that's not actually true, but it really feels like it. Okay, I want to add one last positive point here. Actually, it might be the biggest one of all. The community. It's great. The official Discord server is honestly one of the best gaming community I've come across. The developer is incredibly active, major updates arrive every 2 or 3 months, smaller patches focus on bug fixes and quality of life improvements, and beta builds are made available before stable releases to catch problems early. It's exactly the kind of development process you hope every early access game would have. So, if you're looking for a game that truly lets you feel the wind, the sea, let's say if you're waiting for Ahoy, then I honestly think it's absolutely worth trying. I'll leave some useful links down in the description, and in the meantime, let me know what you think. If you've played Sailwind, I'd love to hear about your experience, and if you know any sailing simulators that you think are even better, tell me, because I genuinely want to try them. And if you enjoyed this video, well, you already know what to do. Leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell, all the usual YouTube stuff that really helps support this channel. Until next time, sailors, citizens and landlubbers. And watch out for those lee shores.